Alright. Privacy is lacking in this house with 3 kids doing homeschooling and a crippled MS patient, so I have hidden myself away in my bedroom to give this a shot. Alright, we're gonna look at the beginning of this whole MS nightmare. Oh, where to begin? I assume not with my girls running around trying to catch squirrels to turn into pets. I guess the best place to start is about 6 or so months before I broke my hip. Alright, so being a former professional wrestler, I'd always wanted to perform in front of my kids. I love the sport, I love the athleticism, and I think it's just the coolest dance routine I've ever done. I doubt they would have been too upset if they'd missed me doing it, but, bucket list, nothing else going on, 33. So before I got started going back to wrestling 6 months or so before, I was 240-ish pounds, but I was in dad shape. That's when you're active, but kinda pudgy. If I was going to be a wrestler, I'd have to drop about 40 pounds, give or take, and get my speed up. And as wrestling is just dancing, I knew I could cover up most of my weaknesses, which were my general lack of coordination. From my lack of grace to my general lack of skill after 8 years of hiding and retirement. What I couldn't hide was the love handles and their belly buddy. So I cut my weight, I did basic training, some wind sprints, dares, nothing too major, because I wasn't sold on professional wrestling after this one match. Kinda wanted to do just a quick one and done. I have zero idea what was going on August 5th. This is the day before everything happened. I do know that I was a stay-at-home dad, and I was bored senseless because I had no real job or direction. I think I was kind of looking for a new path in life, a new adventure, something to get me interested again. The kids were in school, Thel was working, and I was stuck alone again. This happens a lot in my life, I feel. A few years before all this, I did try doing the run your own business, but it wasn't for me. It was too much work, the boss sucked, the rewards were nil. So part of me was thinking, yay, a change, a goal, something to get me interested in things outside of the house. As the match was at the start of August, we put the family vacay end of June. We still like to go do stuff. The June trip was a trip out to Prince Edward Island in a little tiny Trillium trailer, kind of like a bowler trailer, and a little SUV, Bert and Ernie, respectively. Over the 2-week journey there and back, I had a severe allergic reaction to something. I was covered in head to toe with hives. Head to toe. I assume it was the bread from PEI, but Thel was more alert and very doubtful of my medical diagnosis. My airway didn't block, but it was definitely coming, so we thought. My body broke out in hives, like I said, head to toe, everywhere. Looking back, I was sure it was the first major signs of MS. Kind of looked like an autoimmune rash, now that I've seen one of those. Looking back at everything my body was telling me at that point in time, hindsight says I should have been rushing to a doctor and been under doctor care from the get-go. My balance was way under where I thought it should be, even for being a dad for 8 years and not a professional wrestler. My hands would have a twitch from every once in a while, and we just went, it just is what it is. My hand has a mind of its own. My legs would also jump. Didn't know how to describe it other than they just jumped. And again, we passed it off to I was a professional wrestler. I was abusive towards my body. And quite frankly, I was a professional wrestler and getting older. What do I know about anything? I had been to the doctors for a follow-up on everything and never found a single thing wrong. Never had the MRI. Needed that MRI. But between Bell's palsy, major rashes, something was going on critically. We checked the heart, lungs, everything was healthy. So this brings us to August 6th. If the allergic reaction was a prelude to MS, we're now entering Chapter 1. of when everything really was obvious in hindsight. I spent the day in the ring, as I did every day before a show. I was going over my routine. My partner was a little bit MIA, so, kind of working solo and with any other guy who would jump in the ring and let me toss him around, or more accurately, let them toss me around. I don't remember if I actually did the cool-ass moonsault from the top rope or not that day, but I would have done it from the middle rope, bottom rope, off the ground, onto the floor. It's a tricky move to pull off, and you kind of have to assume something will be there to catch you. There were no issues. My muscle memory was right on point. My moves were crisp in training. If my moves looked as good on the show as they did in training, I would be a superstar. Everything was going hunky-dory. As I said, my partner had vanished, which isn't uncommon. He was a complete flake, and show days were no different. So, as the show got closer, as always, you're in your underwear in front of, well, in my case, a skirt, in front of, I think, about 200 people or so. You get a little nervous about how bad you're going to screw up, because people are mean. As we set up at the end, I felt confident for the move. So, get in the ring. Match went off with mild difficulties. He wasn't up to par. If he'd been half as good as I thought he was, I would have been happier, but he was well below where I thought he was to carry me to a decent match. Now, I knew as soon as I hit the air, something was wrong. My direction was off, so I did a quick slight readjustment mid-air. I've been trained to do that sort of thing. I just kind of know how to do it. Muscle memory, I guess. And I landed. As soon as I landed, I felt my leg explode in pain. I assumed it was my knee. But I knew for sure I had done screwed up pretty bad. I lay there for a minute or two, thinking and trying to stand. As when I broke my hip, it broke at the neck, so I was just wiggling around inside the tissue, causing more damage. And it hurt every time. So as I screamed and was carried out on a stretcher, I was still saying nothing was broken. I was convinced I just dislocated my hip, dislocated my knee. The EMTs were, of course, amused by this because they're smarter people than anybody gives them credit for. And they proceeded to pump me full of morphine and gravel, which was just delightful. The rest of the night is a blur of morphine, gravel, catheters, Michelle crying, Michelle claiming she slept. At some point, I was told that I'd broken my leg and I would be getting surgery. Okay, cool, that's no big deal. Two memories do stick out very vividly. One, they put a hairnet over my bald head to something. And two, I was getting an x-ray done and they said, is it okay if we move you into the position? As long as you're okay with me screaming. So they moved me and I screamed. Outside of that, I woke up to a rebuilt, painful hip and a thigh that hurts to this day. So, to be dramatic, let's lay this all out. I broke my hip. I was rushed into surgery at 2 a.m. in the morning. The surgery should have taken an hour. It took twice as long at 2 hours. The doctor said there was no issues. It should be done in an hour. No problems. It took 2 hours. So, a little bit worried there. Every time we asked how bad it was, we kept getting the same response. Don't worry, we'll fix it. 4 years later, like I said, it feels like somebody took a bite out of my thigh. It kills me, and sometimes the joint hurts like hell, but that's probably because I broke it. The reason I keep coming back to this night is that it was a shatter point of my future. No broken hip, I go one way. Broken hip, I go the other. The takeaway of all of this is nothing really, other than pointless rambling for 10-ish minutes or so that when I finally lose my mind, somebody's here to look at, or something along those lines. Anyway, that's all I got for you, champs.